So I would still stick with Predator. As being one of them.
The original, right?
Yep. Possibly the original Halloween.
Classic.
Yep.
When was the first time you saw the original Halloween? Do you remember that experience?
I have no idea how old I was, but I remember being scared to death. There's something about just there being one main antagonist, this killer coming after people, and a lot of the one-on-one, and that's what I like about the first Predator as opposed to most of the others. Do I get 3?
You get 3.
All right, so Predator, Halloween, and oh wait, I think I saw it in here. Yep, Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is probably one of my top 5 movies. I'm Michael LoCicero, writer, director, producer, actor, whatever you want, and this is the Film Stock Podcast. I just spotted Hook, which is another really high on my list. I love that movie.
That's gonna happen from time to time. You're gonna just notice, and it's just gonna bring you back somewhere.
Oh yeah.
But that's not why we're here.
No.
We're here to talk about you, my friend.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for being here, by the way. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This is amazing.
It's a pretty cool studio, right?
Yeah. I love it.
Shawn has put a lot of hard work into this, and his love of VHSs and Blu-rays is all around us. So
sure is.
It's a nice time.
I can't. I'll apologize now if I don't maintain eye contact with you in our conversations, because I'm just constantly drawn to all these different movies and fun. You know, the cameras up there. It's like,
and we got the television.
Yeah.
You know, the static. Yeah. There's a lot to look at. So
yeah,
I want to ask you about your career.
Okay.
So you are a writer. Yeah, but you're so much more than that, though.
Yeah, thanks.
You are a director, an actor, a writer, a producer, and you've had a lot of projects that are very interesting. Can you, I want to start with actually a little known one. It took me, I saw it on your IMDb. You have never brought this up to me.
Okay.
And I spent like an hour trying to find the movie, but I only found the trailer. So I want to know more about this movie called Erebus.
Oh, yes. Erebus. That is, I don't want to say sore subject, but
no, we're starting off on a bad note.
Yeah, no, Erebus was one that, it wasn't an anthology horror film that we made, I can't even remember when, but years ago, probably also early 2000s that we were talking. We had an amazing crew. It was a great script. I fell in love with my character, the role I had.
What was your character, by the way? Like I said, I only saw the trailer, so it seems to me like you were the villain.
Well, not really. I mean, he goes down this kind of like this psychosis rabbit hole. But my character's name was Robert Neville. The particular anthology, the particular like chapter that I was in felt very Shining-esque. You know, he kind of ran this hotel. Basically, there was, I know I had a wife that I believe had died, and I was kind of losing my mind in this hotel by myself, and there was a paranormal presence in there. Basically, it was a great film when we were shooting it. We were really excited because we had this stellar cast and crew.
Yeah, you had the actor from The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah,
the original?
Michael Berryman. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, he had a fairly small role. I'm sure they could only afford him for like a day or something. But yeah, he was involved, and a lot of other just great actors and crew members that work locally all the time, many of them that I've become very close with over the years. And so, yeah, we made the film. We shot it on Block Island in the winter, so the backdrop was just perfect. We got to shoot in these huge hotels that are on the island that were, in my opinion, legitimately haunted. And
oh, really? Did you have any experiences?
We did. Yeah, we were shooting in this hotel, and the phone rang. And no one is in the hotel. It's literally just us. I don't think it interrupted a take or anything, but they were like, oh, we got to unplug that phone so that doesn't happen while we're rolling. And they did, and then it rang again. And we had other instances where, like, I remember in between setups, like kind of just walking around the halls and exploring and like walking by rooms that had like the faucet was on and like just random little things. There was nothing like crazy, like, oh my God, we're like running for our lives or anything, but it was just all these little creepy things that were like that. I don't think that was like that.
So kind of like how The Exorcist was plagued with just, haunted.
Yeah.
So that movie did it come out or?
So that's why it was a kind of sore subject movie, because as I was getting, what I was getting at is that it was a great film to shoot. We felt like we had something just that was really going to kind of put us on the map as far as an indie feature. And then it just really lost everything in post. I don't know.
Like the magic is what you're saying? Like you love the script, you love the process, but then in post it just kind of didn't materialize, or did it like fizzle out?
There was some kind of drama that happened with the producers and the director and the editor, and just relationships were tainted, and basically it fell into the wrong hands in post and ended up getting edited like wrong. I'm not sure what trailer you saw, because there was a trailer that the editor of Killers Next Door, who's a good friend of mine, Nick Bobian, he had put together a trailer for it. He worked on this back then, and it was an awesome trailer, and it got us all really excited. But then when they actually finally finished the film, it had this crazy, almost like death metal score to it.
That's the one I saw.
Oh, okay.
That's the trailer I saw.
Yeah, and it was like cut really choppy, and it wasn't the movie we made. It wasn't at all how we envisioned. And I'm just an actor on it. I think I can speak for the director, who I believe he had a similar kind of vision for it in mind, and it didn't become what it was supposed to. And not only that, but I had watched a final cut of it, and the sound was atrocious. There was a lot of sound problems. Yeah, there was and we dealt with like crazy wind, because we were out there in the winter, and you're on Block Island, so the ocean is right there. And I remember there is one scene where I'm standing on the porch of the hotel, and all you hear is wind in the scene, and it's like they
even in the after it's gone through post.
Yeah, like they clearly didn't have like a proper sound designer come in and clean it up. It just seemed like it was all slapped together in post, and it was a big letdown. I think for everyone, not just me. And I feel bad for the director, because I feel like he hasn't really been able to get anything going again, and I feel like he thinks he may have burned a lot of bridges with people because that movie kind of fell apart, which I have no ill will towards him at all. But I do think he just didn't see it through.
So in thinking about, your role as a director and a producer, I think it's interesting what you just said in regards to, burning bridges and getting the next thing going, because you have demonstrated that you know how to cultivate relationships. And I'm curious to know how, when you directed your first film, like what was that process, The Killers Next Door? Yeah,
well, it took some time, and I was happy for it to take as long as it needed. A lot of features kind of get thrown together. Even just the writing process goes by way too fast. They'll like write a first draft and maybe make a couple little tweaks and be like, all right, let's shoot this thing. It's ready.
How long does it usually, how long did it take with The Killers Next Door? When did that start, and how long did it take you to write it?
Long time, much longer than it should. I in my opinion, because it was my first feature, and I was not, and honestly, I still, maybe it's a confidence thing, but I still don't consider myself a real writer. I started out with meeting with a friend of mine who was a screenwriting professor, and he helped me with the kind of structure and like creating an outline. Like I had a basic storyline in mind. I tend to come up with stories based on a location. Like I feel like it's more the producer side in me, that I just think of what is attainable and what is, like I'm not going to write something that I'm like, all right, now we got to find this crazy location that will never be able to afford or anything. You know, it's like,
I mean, it's smart decision making to have the producer hat with the writer's hat.
Yeah.
And it's also, I would imagine, because I've been in this experience as well, but it's nice to kind of set your parameters
sure,
early on, and then you kind of work your way out of creative problems through
especially
having
when you don't know what kind of money is going to be involved. It was most likely going to be little to none. You know, if you want to make this movie, you got to, it's all about the story. You know, I feel like you don't need anything crazy flashy or you know, if you can work with what you got and create a solid storyline. It doesn't matter if we shot a feature in this room, you know, like this room is awesome. This is a great location. So I'm like, oh, I want to make something here because we have this backdrop. I mean, and then you come up with
Sidney Lumet did it the best with 12 Angry Men?
Yeah.
One location.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
There's so much drama that happens within that hour and a half or 2 hours that you're watching it.
Yeah.
So the Killers Next Door is set at this cabin.
Yeah. So that was my point, is that I came up with the idea because my family owned a cabin up in New Hampshire, and I knew I could utilize their land and their cabin and shoot something up there for no money. They would just let me go up there and with a crew and make a movie. And so I, being a big like true crime fan and a fan of the thriller genre, I came up with this kind of, you know, almost like a home invasion type of story where, you know, this couple goes up to weekend getaway to their family's cabin and they cross paths with these two ex-convicts on the run, and, you know, hilarity ensues.
Classic.
Yeah,
Classic.
Exactly. It's nothing, you know, it's very, there was definitely many films and some true crime shows that had inspired, you know, I feel like I took little pieces from all of them and put something together. Circling back, I did the outline of it first with my screenwriting friend. We did the index cards and everything. We really literally went scene by scene, and I wanted to make sure I had a good 3-act structure, and because I felt like I was good with writing dialogue, like from the acting side. I feel like
you've got a good ear.
Yeah.
I would agree. By the way, quick side departure.
Sure.
I was telling you, I read about 20 pages of the Sandtrap, your newest script,
and
that was something I noticed, and I even noticed it when I was watching The Killers Next Door. You do have a good ear for dialogue.
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it comes naturally because you know what works and what doesn't when you're acting. I had a lot of help from my counterpart, Mark Fogarty, who runs JL Pictures with me, and he's also a filmmaking teacher and much more of a writer. And so he helped me with a lot of revisions with Killers Next Door, and also co-wrote the Sandtrap with me. But getting the structure down and having, you know, these arcs and everything really makes sense was what I was, you know, a little wet behind the ears on and needed some help with. So I took my time.
You say that, though, but I really like the dynamics at play in The Killers Next Door, like the brother relationship. And I really think that you did a good job at kind of bringing out the humanity in them, especially the brothers, even though they're kind of detestable in a way.
Yeah. And they're
like, you felt the conflict in your character, like having to deal with his brother, and you could kind of see why he was willing to go along with some of his more base instincts.
Yeah.
His criminal instincts. And I thought that you both as actors, you know, the script really worked, and you both as actors really kind of elevated those performances.
Oh, good. It was funny because that script and the film took a major kind of like evolutionary process. The original script was much more of a parallel of the couple and the ex-convicts, the antagonists, where it was kind of like watching the couple and watching the antagonists and kind of like seeing where they start and how they end up meeting in the middle. But as we were making the movie, we had gotten a lot of feedback that the couple was just not nearly as intriguing or interesting to watch. The couple was kind of your basic married couple. They were going through some marital issues. They had some problems at home.
But this was prior, like you're saying that these were notes you were getting in the draft, or this was notes you were getting while you were filming or in
Mostly
post?
Actually while we were filming. Like we cut a lot of scenes that were of the couple, and we kind of redirected it, which I to be honest, I had wanted all along, so it really worked out in my favor. I just felt like I wasn't doing it properly in the script version. I had too much of the couple, but what I had always wanted was to be kind of this like fly on the wall and just follow the bad guys,
the brothers
from the beginning, and just see how they started and how they ended up where they ended up. Yeah, exactly. Which is kind of, that was the big influence from a true crime show, is that I had watched this episode of a show where it basically like followed these guys that they went into the woods and broke into this cabin that was in the woods. And it was during Christmas, so there was a tree with all these presents, and they like stayed in the house. They ransacked the place. They opened all the presents. They had a camcorder, so they like filmed each other like opening presents. What was really twisted is that they stayed there because it was in the dead of winter, and they couldn't leave. There was a lot of snow, and they basically just waited for the family to come home. That kind of like really inspired Killers Next Door. Is I wanted to just be like, what is going through these guys' minds while they're making all these rational decisions in their head to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, to them it's, and you see it in the movie, you see their logic, and you disagree. I disagreed with it the whole time, but I'm like, it tracks.
Yeah,
like it makes
tracks,
sense.
but they're idiots. They're
absolutely idiots. But what they're doing makes sense in their minds, and you did a good job at showing that to the audience.
Good. Yeah, I wanted to make sure we had, that they were somewhat, even the Bobby character, played by David Pridemore perfectly, as insane as he was, you still had empathy for him. You felt bad for him, and you definitely felt bad for my character.
Oh, I felt awful for your character at the end.
Yeah. But I felt like even the Bobby character, you didn't hate them. They were, and I tried to incorporate a lot of kind of like natural comedy, just like, weird, awkward situations and just banter to kind of normalize these, terrible situations. Because that's life. I wanted it to feel like you were like a fly on the wall watching almost like this true crime episode, like I didn't want it to be this really cheesy, two-dimensional, typical thriller where it's just, you're just watching the bad guys chase the two, the innocent couple. I wanted it to be more than that, and I think we achieved that. It was
I think you did too. I really do. The scene that actually stands out, I mean, two scenes stand out in my mind, but the one that stands out to me the most right now is kind of, I think it's toward the middle of the movie or maybe just a little bit after, when you guys, your characters go over and kind of invade the hot tub.
Yeah.
That I thought really worked. I really thought it worked because it tested all four of the relationships at play. Yeah. Like the way that the husband was dealing with it versus the wife, and you guys not getting that you've overstayed your welcome because you're drunk, and like that tension that was there, that really worked. Can you tell me about like what it was like filming that? Filming that scene was actually, it was tough because we had some major weather issues. Like it rained and snowed. Yeah, I mean the entire shoot was we ran the gamut of every kind of season there is in a very short amount of time. Yeah, we were up there for 12 days, and it rained, it snowed, there's winds. You guys really you filmed that in 12 days? We filmed all the stuff in New Hampshire in 12 days. There were 3 days that we shot in Rhode Island. And then we actually had a couple of pickup days, one having to go back up to New Hampshire. But yeah, the very first chunk of the shoot was 12 days straight in New Hampshire. And that was, like 80% of the movie. What were those days like? Did you guys do, because in the film industry, it's generally accepted that you're going to be filming a 12-hour day. Sometimes you go over to 14, 16, but like, did you guys have chaotic days, or was it, relatively, I mean, what was it like? I tried to make sure that people were happy as they could be on set, by making sure we fed them well. I feel like we housed them well, and we didn't have crazy long days. I mean, we, maybe 12 hours we pushed at one point. But
We never had crazy early call times. We started first thing in the morning, but it wasn't like any 5 a.m. calls or anything like that.
Was it a big crew?
No. That was something that we had to, which I'm kind of a big fan of that for low to no budget features anyway. That if it's something that is pretty contained, location wise, we did a lot of kind of like doubling up on roles. Like our production designer was also doing the props and helping with costumes and
when an actor's not on camera, they're holding the boom.
Yeah, exactly. Like people had to, and I was running around. I'm an actor, but I was also directing it and then like, bringing people coffee if I needed to, whatever, just making sure everyone was kind of,
what was that like? Being director and actor, did you find balancing the roles difficult, or did you enjoy it?
I would never do it again.
No.
I didn't want to do it then.
Do you have one that you would prefer?
I would rather be an actor and producer. Those are two things that I could juggle. And maybe writer as well, but that
happens way before production.
Process.
So yeah.
I've always been a firm believer that if you're gonna, wear that many hats, whether it be a film or a play, that there's going to be something lacking because it's just too much to take on.
Sure.
And I had our AD help with directing. I didn't want to direct myself, and so I definitely had people that I went to, him especially, Mark Green, and make sure that everything was playing out right, and I'm very much into the collaborative effort, and that was being my first feature as a director. I needed the help, and I was had no problem being humble about it and asking for it.
And this actually goes back to what I was saying earlier. So you have been doing this a long time. You've kind of collected a good network of people that you like collaborating with and trust. Yeah. So the people that were on that set, I would imagine, a 12-day shoot out, on location.
You gotta have some good ones.
You gotta have people that you trust.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that, you've been working with most of that crew for a while then?
Yeah, a lot of them were like people that I had known since back like Erebus days, and even before that. There was a few random positions that we needed to fill that were kind of like recommendations, and so there was a handful of people that I hadn't known prior, but most of the crew we had handpicked because they were people that not only we knew were skilled at what they were doing, but they were good people, easy to work with.
And they probably understood the nature of like a small, low budget, independent shoot and what that requires.
That had a ridiculously tight schedule, and there was no room to fuck around.
Yeah.
It was, the production almost died a couple of times just because of the weather. It was one of those things where we're like, we had to
gotta keep going.
Yeah. we're like waiting for the rain to pass, and it was just like, if this doesn't stop in an hour, we're sunk. And I would like to think the majority of the shoot and the process worked. I mean, it's kind of impossible to shoot anything and not have some high stress at times. You could even be shooting a small short film and you're going to run into logistical nightmares, budget problems, the generator's out of gas. Yep.
Yeah.
And you're going to find that everywhere. That. Yeah.
And I ran into all that.
Yeah, everything. Yeah. The budget issues, I had to go to my mom and ask her. She was already helping us out and was an investor on the film. Mm-hmm. And I had to ask her for more money because, I was like, there was like something that we didn't incorporate into the budget that I was like, oh shit, we need to do this.
Yeah.
Mom, please help me out here. And she did, and it worked. And we never did anything too crazy or expected. I was never very demanding. I actually felt like our DP and our gaffer, at some points we all kind of butted heads because the schedule was already so tight and I knew it was tight. And so when we went into it, in my mind, I had envisioned this film to almost feel like documentary style because I had the whole like true crime show
rattling around in your head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So with that said, I didn't need crazy lighting or, these beautiful shots. I wanted a lot of gritty handheld.
Kind of embrace what's there
Exactly.
naturally.
Use the natural lighting, blah, blah, blah. And then we would get to certain scenes, and they're taking 45 minutes to light it, and
you're like, we are not doing this.
It's like I was like, this looks great, but I don't need all that, And then people are getting mad at me that we don't have time to do this. I'm like, well, I don't want that. I don't want that time. We don't, just turn the camera on and let's go.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, it's a very tricky balance.
Yeah.
I found myself in that situation before as well, where it's like, okay, everybody's doing this for cheap to free.
Yeah.
They're here to support your vision. You want to be collaborative, but there is a certain point where you have to be authoritative, where it's like, no, let's not waste our time with that.
Yeah.
Don't need it. Won't use it.
Exactly.
And, especially in like the independent world, it's such a tricky balance because you want to keep those good connections. You don't want people to feel like their efforts have been wasted or that they weren't heard.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and they want, they want to feel invested in it, and like they're really giving their kind of artistic, input into what they're doing, and especially when they're not getting paid thousands of dollars, they're just kind of, this is almost like this is a passion project, like everyone got paid, but they didn't get paid well, and so it's like you want them to enjoy what they're doing because they have to sacrifice. It's not just like a, I'm making a shitload of money, so I'll do whatever he says,
if you're on a union set, it's like, okay, I'll move that light 150 times and we don't even need to use it, but I'm getting paid well.
Yeah.
So that's fine. So I'm curious then, you also wrote, no, you didn't write it, but you directed it. You adapted it. What is it? Time, Space, Emotions, and Kissing?
Time, Space, Motion, and Kissing. Yeah.
Yes.
A short film. Yeah. It was very well received for what it is.
It's a unique project. The subject matter is very touching, but I think it's also unique. Maybe you can talk a little bit about, so it's all one shot.
Yeah.
It's like, a 10-minute short, and it all
18 actually.
18?
Yeah.
And it all, wow.
Yeah.
And it all takes place in one shot. What was that like?
It was a very interesting process. I'll give you a little backstory on it. It was a play first.
Yep.
That I had done. I had played that same role. I had actually done the play twice. I had played a different role. I'd played the husband, the married couple in it.
Yep.
I played the husband when we first did it. We remounted it at the same theater company, the one at the golf course that I do the plays with.
What's the name of that theater company again?
Homebrewed Theater Company.
Homebrewed Theater.
And
this play that you adapted into this short film, that was originally part of the Homebrewed Theater Company?
Yeah.
That was one of their plays?
It was. Well, it wasn't. It was written by Craig Handel, and when I performed it, I fell in love with it. I had such a great experience doing it and just loved the writing, loved the story. And I asked Craig, I was like, look, Craig, I think this would be a great short film. It's all contained in one location. It would be a lot of fun to do. And he was, totally gave me his blessing. And so the reason why we did it all in a single shot was because I wanted it to have that. It was kind of an homage to it being a theater piece originally. And I wanted it to have that kind of, the full-on performance where there weren't a bunch of cuts and a bunch of takes. Like I wanted us to just bang it all out like we were doing a play.
Live.
Yeah, exactly. And so we did. And also I felt like, not that I felt like it needed anything extra, but I wanted it, I thought it was a great story, but I wanted it to be special and something a little different that we could add to it. And I was like, well, why don't we try and do it in one shot? Eric Simpson, who was the DP and editor, he came and would rehearse with us. Basically, we had like a handful of rehearsals, and we rehearsed them like a play. And
with the camera.
Yeah, with the camera. We kind of just mapped out his choreography while we were blocking ours. And so then that by the time we got on set, we literally did like 4 full takes of the whole thing.
Oh, really?
And yeah, we did it all in one night, and we were there for, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. Again, my one kind of thing that I didn't like is me directing
I was
myself.
literally just about to say that, against your better instinct.
Yeah.
You still, so what drives that in you, that
It's more of a, like with Killers Next Door, I had wanted to find a director for that, but then it got to the point where, first of all, we were just getting too close to production where just a decision had to be made. And but the biggest thing was that because this was on my family's property, because there was something that was so close to me, and I knew exactly what I wanted for every scene, it just seemed, it was like, this will be so much easier if I just do it. Because if I try to have someone who isn't as close to the project come in and direct, no matter how good of a director they are, I'm going to be breathing down their neck.
You end up butting heads. It's just going to be a bad environment.
Like, let's not even do that.
And is that what happened for?
Well, with this, it was a combination of that, and also just because this was like we were just doing it in one night. But it was one of those things where I didn't want to burden someone else. Like I felt like it wasn't worth asking someone else to kind of like take the reins on directing it, because I had already done it twice as a play, and then we had rehearsed it, so many times that I felt like we knew what we wanted, we knew what it should be. I didn't need to, I directed the other actors and kind of, gave them, little things here and there to work with, adjustments, I guess. But some of those actors had done the play with me, and
so they had an understanding about what they were going to do anyway.
Exactly.
So
like everyone is very comfortable with the material, and also they're all veterans in their craft, and so it wasn't something that I felt like I had to. If anything, it wasn't the directing and acting; it was the directing, acting, and producing, because I also got there really early and organized the kind of like crafty table and make sure people were, I was playing producer almost more than actor director,
sure,
making sure everyone was happy and blah, blah, blah. And so it got to the point when we were finally running through these takes, I just was running out of gas, and I felt like my performance suffered a little bit. I'm happy with how it came out, and I feel like I was fine, but compared to when we did the stage production, I was very proud of that work as an actor, and this one was just kind of a totally different animal. I'm more proud of the film version for the aesthetic and the cinematography and how it all came together than my performance in the stage version. But all in all, it was good. I'm happy with it.
I would
agree.
I'm
proud of it. Thank you.
I would agree. So I'm interested. So your heart clearly is in performing.
Mm.
Which do you find to be the bigger challenge? And before you even answer this question, I'll acknowledge that they both come with their own sets of challenges. But for you, do you prefer being on stage, or do you prefer being in front of the camera? And which environment do you think is more conducive for an actor to practice their craft?
Definitely the stage. I love filmmaking and have developed a whole other passion for that now. And but I started out on the stage. I started doing theater, and just from an actor's perspective, there's nothing like having an audience and really diving into a role and not having to cut and
reset the lighting.
Exactly. There's a lot of feeling like a puppet when you're an actor on a film set. And so they're both equally, very unique crafts in and of themselves, I think, and take skill and have their own payoff. There's nothing like seeing yourself on film when you're sitting in the audience for a premiere.
There I am.
Yeah. Although to be honest, I more and more I'm starting to become like Johnny Depp and those actors that don't want to watch themselves. I love to watch to see everything else. But when it comes to my stuff, I'm so overly critical, and I'll immediately be like, oh, why did I do that? Why did I say it like that? Why did gross?
Well, one project that I saw recently, thanks for sharing, by the way, because then my Jimmy, my producing partner, he actually helped produce this, was the
Signal.
The Signal.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing that up because I think that you did a really great job in that.
Oh, thank you.
You did a really great job in that. What was that? What is that project? Who's it by? And what was that process like?
So Shawn is the writer-director, and he is awesome guy, had worked on Nuclear with us.
Yep.
And
he was the assistant director on that.
Yeah. It was interesting because it wasn't just a short film that we were going to just do. It wasn't just that what you saw. That was a chapter, almost like it's like an episodic, I guess. But he has different storylines that are focused on. Like that chapter 1 was about my character Tobias, and then he's done other chapters that focus on other characters, and they're all in the same universe. And I believe that at some point there's going to be chapters down the road where they all are together,
kind of link up.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the story kind of like the puzzle pieces come together. He's kind of kept me in the dark on
what else is
happening. Yeah, I loved what we did that day. And he was very collaborative. I kind of helped him with shaping some dialogue stuff, and we even made little kind of like little clips, little videos for marketing purposes that we could like put online and share of just things that Tobias was going through, and did little voiceover excerpts and things that he's been really on top of. Building this kind of this story of what the signal is. He has a lot of kind of cool little teasers that he's been posting online.
Yeah, I've seen some of them, and he bent my ear. I know, obviously I know Shawn, but he bent my ear about it. I think it was shortly after Nuclear, and like I liked the concept, but then this is the actual first time that I've actually seen anything from that initial concept.
Yeah.
What was it? You carried that whole first chapter. I know that there's another actor, but you never see her. Like, what was that like on the day to actually do that? Did you stay in it, or because the setup seemed pretty simple? Like,
it was. We were just sitting in a room. I was just in a chair, and
you were able to just kind of keep moving, or were there long reset periods? Like, were you able to stay in it?
Yeah, I was able to stay in it. I mean, I'm not one of those actors. Like, I wouldn't say I'm method by any means. Like, I don't need to I don't want to say need to. Everyone has their own way of doing things, and whatever works is great. But I tend not to like stay in character when we're not rolling.
You can joke around when the camera's off.
Right back out of it.
Go right back
and be me. Yeah, I just as long as the story is hitting home for me, and what my dialogue works, and everything feels like, as long as I'm on board with that, I can get right back into it. And so we did a few different setups, and Elise, who played the woman, the interviewer, she was great, even though she's not, seen heavily on camera.
She's got a great voice.
Yeah, she's got a great voice, and we definitely, she brought out a lot of what I was able to give, because she was very cold, and it was supposed to feel like this kind of interrogation. And
it really just gets under your skin and into your head. Like, I loved the whole end montage with all of the questions being asked and your reaction. Like, you can just see it in your eyes that like almost her cold monotone voice is just like driving you even further.
Sure.
It's almost, I almost felt like watching it, I was like, I know that the inciting incident in that short is that something was it at work, like you snapped at one of your coworkers, but it almost felt like watching this short film, you were almost looking for somebody else to have that same passionate emotion, if that makes sense. Like, it seems like a man in a very cold, distant, like sterile world. And this is his response to it.
Well, and he's extremely paranoid. He thinks that everyone is against him, including her. I think he initially goes to this. It's more supposed to be like a therapy session.
Sure.
And he needs help because he's just starting to lose his mind a little bit. I think he's just kind of thinks that something is always watching him and listening to him, and just monitoring him, and that he can't trust anyone around him, and so he kind of goes to her for help, and I think initially thinks that she will help him, and then realizes that she's just one of them as well.
She's one of them. She's part of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so she did a fantastic job of making me feel that way.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So then was it just the one day of filming?
Yeah. We, I think there is going to be more. He's kind of leaked little things of what happens to Tobias later. But we
to you, or as like me, putting things out for publicity. Like, is he giving you kernels of what the story is going to be?
Yeah, he's giving me little kernels of what happens to my character and making me think that we'll end up shooting that at some point. It's interesting to kind of like just be giving these like breadcrumbs along the way of what's going to happen. Like I don't need to know his entire arc. I kind of like knowing just like what's happening in this scene that we're going to do and what he's going through. And he feeds me what has happened in the past,
sure,
but not knowing what's to come.
Yeah, I would imagine in that way it's kind of cool because as an actor, you got to be able to react to the now. Yeah. So I'm not an actor, so I don't know, but I would imagine that, it might be refreshing to just have the information you need right now and what informed it instead of thinking about where your arc's going to go and what you're going to have to play later.
Yeah, because like when you do a play and you know the entire story and the arc of the character, even though obviously when you're in the moment, you're just playing what you are supposed to be feeling now. But like, we're playing, doing an adaptation of Peter Pan this summer.
At Homebrew?
At Homebrew. I'm going to be Hook.
Yeah.
And I know what's going to happen in the end, but...
You're going to get eaten by that crocodile is what's going to happen.
Yeah, but, with this particular project, it's nice to not know what's going to happen to Tobias. I think it's
Is the Peter Pan that you're doing, is it the musical?
No,
it's just straight play adaptation.
Straight up adaptation of the original J.M. Barrie Peter Pan.
Ooh, dark.
Yeah, and this is kind of a big thing for Homebrewed, kind of extending the olive branch for them because they have, it's a kind of a family-run company. My past theater teacher, Jim Beauregard, his son Andrew and daughter Rachel, they kind of run the company together and have hired actors and Andrew is primarily has been the writer in most of their plays, and he's a fantastic writer. And this is the first in the January slot we've done different writers like Craig, but as far as the main stage show in the summer, this is the first one that is not written by Andrew and not going to be directed by Jim. They're kind of like giving this opportunity to Nick, but also giving themselves an opportunity to be more collaborative and take a break and not have so much, Yeah,
you can't wear all the hats all the time.
Exactly. So I think they're looking forward to it. Jim is going to be an actor in it as well, which he's been really excited about. And so I'm excited for it because I think it's going to be a slightly different process. However, will be the same high caliber show that we've been able to do because we have all the same people involved, and Nick is doing a great job with the writing, and it's Peter Pan.
That's what you're doing with the act. So again, I'm very inspired by how you consistently keep things moving. You're always up to something new. So that's the acting realm for you. Are you working on anything, script wise, movie wise? Yeah.
So we had a feature already kind of lined up to be our next one. The thriller "Enjoy Your New Home." That
that's right.
Yeah, but that one,
that was a wild script, man. That was a wild script.
You. Yeah, it's definitely wild. I had, I'm not going to say I spent too much time searching for investors for that, but I felt like I was kind of like going nowhere, and we're it was still fairly fresh off of the pandemic, and a lot of people are just, they weren't really in a place to be able to invest money into anything. So I wasn't having much luck. And so we were like, we need to write something else, something that's a little more attainable. And so I had come up with this idea based on a location again, which is the Stony Lee Golf Course in Attleboro.
So you wrote the script around that location?
So we wrote a script around that location. I had, it's funny because I had pitched the idea to Mark, and he was like, I don't know, man, that's going to be tough. A movie about golf. Like, I hate golf. And, I don't, he was just not inspired at all at first. And so I came up with a basic broad storyline. And his ears perked up.
So then, what's the timeline? When do you think you're planning to go into production?
Well, we're now looking at hopefully fall of 2025. I had originally wanted to do sooner, like maybe the fall of this year, but I think we need more time to really, do a few more tweaks on the script. Really think about casting, marketing, pursuing more investors to get more money in the budget, and then especially getting all the kind of like effects and crew and that we need. I think that's going to really take some time to get that right. There is I don't know if we even said the title. You might have said it, but it's called The Sand Trap.
Yeah, The Sand Trap. I think I said it earlier.
Yeah, and that's kind of I think that's going to be the title to me. That it almost feels a little too broad and generic, but it really works for the script. But I mean,
The Sand Trap works. I know where we're at.
Yeah,
immediately.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I know it's not like but Sand Trap, nice little double play there. It's like, okay, you're setting up the golf aspect, but you're also setting up the horror aspect in that one, in those 3 words.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and with that said, the Sand Trap in particular in the story. So there is this, we would need to build a sand trap where we can have people getting sucked into the sand.
Hell yeah.
Like the sand trap is swallowing them. And so that's a whole big thing that the owner, Dave of the golf course, he's way into stuff like that. And he's like got this idea to build this sand trap that has like a room underneath. And so really the sand is not going to be that deep, but we can make it to where people are like standing in there and then they get pulled down into the room like they're being eaten. And, I think there's a lot of cool effects that we kind of have an idea of how we can make them work. But those are all things that we really got to like dive into and figure out and make sure, have plenty of time to be able to not only afford to build these things, but make sure they work properly. And, there's a lot of, as there's so many moving parts and things to figure out. And so I welcome the extra time. I much rather have too much time than not enough and be under the gun and something lacks and suffers and we're not able to pull something off because of it.
Sure.
So
makes sense to me.
Yeah, I'm excited. The thing I always worry about is that filmmaking in general, it just takes forever. It's such a long process from writing to post to the festivals, everything. Like especially with a feature, it could take years. It's not like we're these well-known filmmakers. Like we're not the Coen brothers here, where people are going to be like, well, I haven't seen anything from the Coen brothers in a while. It's not like they were going to be worried about that with. I haven't seen Michael LoCicero make anything in a while, but still.
I say that.
Yeah.
I say that.
I've been like, Matt is wondering what's going on.
Yeah.
but you deep down in your mind, you're like, we got to do something. Like I can't go, like Killers Next Door has been out now for a year and change. And it's like, you got to have that next feature lined up.
Can't be it.
You can't, but you can't like wait 5 more years before the next one comes out,
And that's why I keep saying that you want my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
That's why I keep saying you're kind of an inspiration to me, because I have this conversation with my producing partners, Jimmy and Ace, all the time. For me, I'm the kind of filmmaker that like, I give myself over to the entire process, like my whole being. And by the end of it, like I'm
wiped
fried,
out.
I'm done. And honestly, I don't have that in me to turn around and what's the next thing? Like I think I've taken almost a year off now since even thinking about writing. Like I don't have it in me. So the fact that you're able to kind of run that marathon and just always have something in the pipeline, like that really is awesome.
Believe me, I have a lot of help and I am fried constantly myself. I appreciate you saying that, and it's nice. It's definitely nice to hear. But to me, I feel like I'm always behind the 8 ball and that I'm not getting things done the way they should be. Time is never on my side. I just feel like I never have enough time.
Sure.
Because the juggling act of life and this and, trying to make make sure that I'm spending enough time with my kids and my wife and doing all the family stuff, and then still getting to act in other people's projects because I love acting and performing. And then, we've got to think about what the next film is and how we're also going to eventually make money doing this, because I can't drive a truck for the rest of my life. Like the juggling act is next to impossible, and we're only getting older, so it's it's getting harder and harder.
It's true. It's true. Listen, if anybody who saw this wanted to see your projects, your shorts, your features, where could they look? Is there anything that you can plug so we can get some eyeballs on it?
Yeah. So Killers Next Door, our most recent feature, is out on various platforms right now. It's on Amazon and Tubi, and it's Vudu. It's streaming. You can buy the film and download it, but you can also watch it for free with ads. And so that is available online. We have short films and other projects like Time, Space, Motion, and Kissing. And I didn't even get to really bring up we have a podcast.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. I'll just do a quick plug of that, because that is something that I feel like really deserves to be given some attention, because I'm very proud of the work we put in. But
what's the name of that podcast?
The Russian Trolls podcast.
Okay.
It's a black comedy, kind of in the vein of The Office. It's about the 2016 presidential election, and these trolls may or may not have contributed to Donald Trump becoming president. And that is also available on like Apple Podcasts and Spotify and those various platforms. We have a website under construction right now. I believe it's going to be jlpictures.com. When that's completed, we're going to have links. We'll have a link tree set up of all our projects that'll be right on that website. But right now, you can look anything up, all these projects up online, and be able to find them.
Well, with everything that you got your hands in right now,
it's hard. Yeah,
it's hard. Yeah. So, well, listen, man, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Thank you for being our guest.
Thank you. I'm
it was very nice
so
speaking
excited
with
to be able to be the first one.
Hell yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Woo. Bye.